I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, February the 26th, where if we look back at last week, had a lot of things happen with the weather, kind of halting things on your market on cash feeders and the sales right in the area where we have the biggest sales. We kind of had a disappointing fat cattle trade, but then maybe propped it back up later in the week. Cattle on feed come out and was not horrible, but those darn placements, I tell you what, it's hard for anybody to estimate those. I a lot of times give the analysts that put together the estimate that's the most published with Erner Berry there, give them a hard time, but you know, I couldn't find any fault with the way that they estimated it last time, and still they underestimated those things again. But I'm not sure how you would get a fair appraisal of how many cattle were being placed, and I'm not sure how USDA does it. But you look at the trade for last week, look on the board, April live cattle ended the week at 124.85, down $2.80 for the week. February, of course, has matured now, and it ended at 128, which is right where it should be, where the fat cattle trade's at. That was down $2.10. March feeder cattle ended on an even number, which it's kind of been looking for that at the end of the weeks here lately, but March feeders ended at 146 even. That was down $3.72 for the week, and April ended at 148.5, down $3.90. But not sure why they took so much out of your feeders on the board, but it was kind of a rough week on the board. But your fat cattle trade, you remember early last week, or I say early, kind of on that early Wednesday session, the board started tanking on your fat cattle, went down a bunch, over $2 in just less than 5 minutes. And guys got scared and they started selling cattle $2 cheaper than the 130 market that we were so tickled that we got the week before. But the Southern Plains sold most of their cattle at 128. Well, then to come back on Thursday, and the Northern Plains was pretty much stuck with that market. So they started taking it too. Some of them were able to squeeze another $0.50 out of the packers. So our trade was from 128 to 128.5, and that was $1.50 to $2 lower. Around 80,000 head, we think, somewhere in there. We'll find out Monday, and I'll report that to you on the next visit. But the dress trade, the Northern Plains did get to negotiate their own dress trade, and they were able to keep it largely steady at 205. There was some fairly significant trade at 204 also, so that's going to be steady to $1 lower. Box beef cutout values soared. You know, your packers are able to buy cattle $2 cheaper and then tack $10 or more on the cutout values, and basically put out a whole new price list for their customers there, and they were stuck with it. There wasn't a big volume movement, but plenty to establish the market. And choice cutouts, the average trade for last week, sitting at $216.53. That was up $8.06 on the average of the trade for the week, and that is gigantic. But then you look at where the market closed on cutouts on Friday, that was $2 more than that at $218.37. Your selects are about the same way. The average of last week's trade was $210.93. That was up $6.76. And then Friday's trade to end the week was almost $2 more than that at $212.82. So they are really cranking up the prices on this dressed meat. Your slaughter, they're dialing that back at the same time. You think they don't play hardball. 572,000 was the week's slaughter for last week. That was down 24,000 from the previous week, and down 2,000 from the same week a year ago, which we haven't seen really so far this week, because we were actually about 2.2% up higher year to date than we were last year. But cattle on feed come out on Friday, some bearish, but not terrible, and I don't think we can expect anybody, especially the analysts that are most advertised, to nail the placements number, because I'm not sure where you can find it. But February 1st, on feed inventory, 107.9, which is about 0.5% more than what the average analyst guess was at 107.2. And then they had the placements estimated at 100%, and they actually come in at 104.4. If you look at the auction volume through January, it was well below 100%. And I know we're dealing with moving a larger calf crop than we have in past years, and so we need to dial that up. But I don't know where you could have got the idea to dial it up that much. And I couldn't find any fault with that 100% that they had estimated, but still missing that almost 4.5%. And then I was a little scared because the analysts had the average guess was cranked up on the marketings at 106.1%, which sounded pretty lofty and could have been a more bearish tone if we didn't hit that, but actually come out exactly right at 106.1% marketed through January, and that's a good strong number, and I don't think that's going to affect the market a whole lot. One thing that could is we're seeing these dairies struggle, especially out on the West Coast in California. They're dealing with $13 milk. They're not able to make it. A lot of them are saying that they're going to be going out of business, or they're going to have to if things don't change, starting to dump a tremendous amount of their cows on the market, on the beef market. We're seeing a lot of sales in California that just sell out cows, slaughter cows, and then some of them sell multiple days a week or almost every day of the week, and their runs are 5 times or more larger than what they normally are. You know, a sale that sells 200 or 300 cows a sale is selling maybe 1,000 or 1,200 cows a sale. That's significant. That is gonna hurt your market, especially on dressed beef or on ground beef. But you know, if they start dumping their whole herd, there's going to be some good, young, healthy, grain-fed cows on there that they'll be pulling those middle meat cuts out of, breaking those retail cuts out, and it's going to hurt your market quite a bit on our dressed beef. So that's something we need to keep an eye on, guys. But you look at your feeder market. Real-time index, Beef Market Central ended the week last week at 147.53. That was down 78 cents from the end of the previous week. We know that our markets were lower. Most of your auctions that had a good test had your cash feeders and stockers and calves, everything about $2 to $4 lower. And I don't think the market's really that much lower, but most of them were dealing with some kind of a weather problem. Hazardous slick roads, miserable, cold, wet, damp conditions where a lot of your outlets were plugged up. It was going to be hazardous to try to get those cattle there. Various different problems with the weather, but I think weather's better now, and we could see a little boost here early in the week on your big high volume Monday sales. Look at some individual quotes. Burwell, Nebraska on Friday sold 53 head of 599 pound steers, might as well say 600 pound steers at 195. Magnus Livestock Market in Huron, South Dakota sold 87 804 pound steers at 155 1/4. That's your feeder flash for Monday.